In the year 1801, an experiment was conducted that would eventually challenge everything we thought we knew about reality. Even though we live in a world shaped by the discoveries that stem from this moment, many still don't fully understand its implications, or perhaps choose to overlook them. This pivotal moment in science was the double-slit experiment, performed by English polymath Thomas Young. It would go on to lay the foundation for what we now know as quantum mechanics, a field that doesn't just explain the behavior of particles, but raises deep questions about consciousness, observation, and existence itself. Thomas Young was more than just a physicist. Born in 1773, he was also a physician, linguist, and Egyptologist, known for his work in deciphering the Rosetta Stone. In the field of optics, his curiosity led to one of the most influential experiments in science. At the time, scientists were deeply divided on one question: what is light made of? Isaac Newton proposed that light was composed of particles, while others, like Christian Huygens, argued it behaved as a wave. To resolve this debate, Young devised a relatively simple but insightful experiment. He passed a beam of light, originally from a candle, since electrical lighting wasn't yet widely used, through a barrier with two thin slits. Behind this barrier, he placed a white screen to capture the resulting image. Now, if light were truly made of particles, like tiny bullets, Young expected to see two clear lines on the screen, one for each slit. But that's not what happened. Instead, what appeared was an interference pattern made of multiple alternating bright and dark bands. This pattern was more consistent with waves, not particles, overlapping and either enhancing or canceling each other out. Young's conclusion? Light must behave like a wave. His findings helped validate the wave theory of light, challenging the previously dominant particle theory. Over a century later, scientists revisited Young's experiment using much more advanced equipment and an entirely new framework: quantum physics. This time, instead of a continuous light beam, they used individual particles, photons or electrons, fired one at a time. Logic suggested that a single particle would go through one slit or the other, creating two bright spots on the screen, just like before. But once again, the interference pattern emerged. Somehow, even individual particles acted as though they traveled through both slits simultaneously and interfered with themselves. But the real surprise came when detectors were installed to observe which slit each particle passed through. Once the measurement was made, the interference pattern disappeared. The particles now behaved exactly as expected, passing through one slit or the other, like tiny projectiles. This raised an uncomfortable question. Why does the act of observation change the behavior of particles? In quantum theory, this phenomenon is referred to as the collapse of the wave function. As proposed by German physicist Werner Heisenberg, before being observed, a quantum particle exists in a state of superposition, a cloud of probabilities existing in all potential states at once. But the moment it is observed or measured, this cloud collapses into a single outcome. Essentially, the act of observation determines which version of reality becomes real. This discovery has enormous implications. It suggests that reality, at the quantum level, is not fixed until it is observed. Instead, it is a field of possibilities waiting to be collapsed into one definitive state through interaction, which leads us to a fundamental question. What is the role of the observer? And more specifically, what role does consciousness play in shaping reality? This isn't just a physics problem. It touches on long-standing philosophical and spiritual questions. In the Hermetic tradition, an ancient school of esoteric thought, there's a core principle that says, as above, so below. In other words, the macro and the micro reflect each other. The external universe and human consciousness are deeply intertwined. The double-slit experiment adds a scientific layer to this idea. If particles can behave differently depending on whether or not we observe them, then human consciousness might not just be a passive observer, It could be an active participant in shaping reality. Imagine standing in front of a closed door. Behind it, there might be a cat, a chair, or nothing at all. Until you open the door, all those outcomes are possible. At the quantum level, particles exist in that same state of possibility until observed. This means that the attention we give to something might influence how it unfolds. To grasp the full scale of what quantum physics implies, we need to look beyond particles and waves. Scientists, using powerful microscopes and advanced theoretical models, have traced matter down to its smallest known components: atoms, electrons, quarks, and beyond. At the deepest level we can currently imagine lies something called the quantum vacuum. Contrary to its name, it's not empty at all. It's a sea of constant, dynamic activity, a field of primordial energy from which everything in the universe arises. Even the Higgs boson field, responsible for giving mass to particles, is thought to emerge from this quantum vacuum. In short, all things, atoms, molecules, stars, even people, are structured vibrations of this base energy field. So what is the universe made of? At its core, energy, not static energy, but a dynamic, interconnected, ever-shifting field of potential. This understanding is at the heart of modern quantum theory. Here's where quantum physics meets inner awareness. If everything is made from the quantum vacuum, including us, it means that this source energy exists within each person. Some spiritual traditions have called this the divine spark, the internal essence that connects us to all existence. This perspective doesn't require belief in any religion. It's a simple acknowledgement. If we are made of the same energy as everything else, then we are fundamentally interconnected. The illusion of separation between people, between species, between mind and matter is just that, an illusion. To recognize this spark within oneself is often referred to as enlightenment in many spiritual and philosophical systems. It's a shift in perspective from seeing ourselves as isolated beings to understanding that we are inseparable from the universe around us. When we focus only on external achievements, identities, and material pursuits, we operate primarily from the ego, the idea of the separate self. But if we act from the awareness of the spark within, we begin to synchronize with the flow of existence. This doesn't mean we should stop working, studying, or engaging with the world. Quite the opposite. Our bodies and minds are the tools through which the spark can act. A healthy, aware, and purposeful life allows us to express this deeper connection more fully. Problems, whether personal, social, or global, often arise when we deny this connection. Violence, exploitation, inequality, and conflict are the result of believing we are separate from one another and from nature. But when we begin to see that hurting another being is, on some level, hurting ourselves, our choices begin to change. Let's return briefly to the double-slit experiment. If observation influences outcome, then what we focus on in our lives has immense power. If we dwell on fear, lack, or anger, those patterns are reinforced. If we instead focus on growth, solutions, or understanding, we begin to shift the possibilities available to us. This is not magical thinking. It's a reflection of the same principle demonstrated in quantum mechanics. Attention collapses potential into reality. And when we align our focus with the understanding that we are not separate from the energy of the universe, we begin to create with a sense of responsibility, purpose, and clarity. Throughout history, different cultures and philosophies have tried to define God with characteristics such as omnipresence, present everywhere, omnipotence, all-powerful, and omniscience, all-knowing. Interestingly, these attributes also describe the quantum vacuum. It exists everywhere in the universe. It contains infinite potential. It underlies all events and forms of knowledge. This doesn't mean that science has proven God. Rather, it suggests that what many traditions call God and what physics calls the quantum field may point to the same fundamental truth described in different languages. Quantum mechanics, while incredibly complex, gives us one simple message. The universe is not as fixed or separate as it appears. Reality is participatory, and our awareness is a part of how it unfolds. Recognizing that you are not just in the universe, but of it, changes everything. It shifts how we view our thoughts, our actions, our relationships, and our place in the cosmos. As Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, once said, "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force." We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Science and spirituality don't need to be in conflict. When viewed together, they offer a powerful message. We are creators of our reality, and the foundation of everything is energy, awareness, and connection. Thank you for watching and questioning the nature of reality.